My name is Alex Carter. I'm 24, and I have a life that looks tidy on paper. A steady job as a junior product designer at a small studio, rent I can almost pay on time, a girlfriend who adores me, and a best friend named Mark who's basically family. From the outside, I'm boring in the best possible way, dependable, slightly anxious, precise. Inside, though, there's a soft place I keep for myself, a quiet compulsion to try on other versions of me when no one is looking. I'd kept that compulsion secret for years. At first it was small curiosities, borrowing a scarf from a thrift store, experimenting with nail polish in the bathroom, practicing a softer posture in front of the mirror. It wasn't performance. It was curiosity that felt like a small lifeline, a private language I used to answer a question I couldn't say out loud. Emma, my girlfriend, knows me well. She sees my sketches, laughs at my terrible puns, brings me soup when I've worked through the night. But she doesn't know the private thing I do when the rain makes the city go quiet. I tell myself it's harmless, that it's just an experiment in feeling, not identity. But I lie sometimes, to her, to myself. Mark's family had moved back into town for a week after his sister came home from New York for a fashion shoot. Lila Markham is exactly the kind of person who makes rooms tilt. She's tall, quick with a grin that doesn't always mean what you think, and she dresses like a statement piece. Silk, color, precise heels. People notice her because she knows how to take up space the way other people take up air. She's not cruel, exactly. She's the sort of person who tests limits and expects people to keep up. Mark adores her in the way younger brothers do, defensive and dazzled. The first encounter happened after dinner at Mark's parents' house. There had been wine and loud family stories, and I'd told one of my own about the absurdly complicated lamp I'd prototyped for a client, and everyone had laughed politely. Lila had been listening, her fork paused mid-bite, eyes calculating. Afterwards, she pulled me aside like she was moving a chess piece. "You're quieter than I expected in person," she had said, tilting her head. "You look restrained." There was no warmth in the observation. It was more like a diagnosis. "Work keeps me behind the screen," I said. "I like clean lines." She smiled in a way that made me feel like a sketch she might redraw. "I bet you look good in color." On the walk back to Mark and Lila's apartment, where the party continued, and where Lila lived when she was in town, Lila kept talking. About clothes, about the theatrical way people present themselves. Mark laughed beside me, oblivious to the current threading between us. I told myself not to read anything into it. Still, when she slipped her hand into the tote she carried and produced a folded slip of fabric, black, silky, smaller than I expected, and asked if I'd ever tried something like that, something in me responded before my brain could say no.
"No," I said.
My pulse thudded. The slip was lightweight, smelled faintly of perfume, and when she held it against my chest I felt heat that had nothing to do with the wine. "You should," she said simply, as if that settled it. I told myself she meant it as a joke. She didn't. Back at her place, Mark went into the kitchen to fetch more glasses, and Lila led me into her room the way you might lead someone into a quiet theater seat. Her apartment was all polished wood and magazine covers, an aesthetic of decisions made out loud. She flicked on a lamp and gestured at a full-length mirror. "Just to try," she said. "One night. Let me style you. It's fun." Even as I nodded, rationality threaded a caution in my head. Emma was waiting at home. She trusted me. This was ludicrously idiotic. But then Lila's hands were unfurling the fabric and passing it to me with a kind of casual expectation that made refusal feel rude. I stood there, in the circle of light, holding the slip like an object I wasn't allowed to cash. It took 5 minutes. She selected a blouse from a pile, a skirt that said confident in a whisper, and a pair of stockings I'd only ever seen in magazines. When she guided me to sit, her movements were gentle but purposeful, someone dressing a statue. As she buttoned a cuff and slid the stocking up my leg, I felt a gawky, electric shame and an odd, luminous relief. The fabric didn't transform me into someone else. It revealed a version that had always been waiting at the edge of my sight. My posture changed, without command. I breathed differently. Throughout it, Lila talked, Not about me, exactly, but about line and balance and how people hide their best angles. You're good at details, she said. But you rarely let a detail be seen, she added, fastening a necklace with a surgeon's precision. Do you really do this for people? I heard myself ask, too close to embarrassed. For anyone who needs practice, she said with a smirk. Some people need coaching. Some people need permission. She gave me a look that landed somewhere between charity and curiosity, like someone who is both grantmaker and experimenter. I wanted to ask what she meant by permission. I wanted to tell her the half-truth, that I'd tried scarves and lip gloss in the small hours. That once, ashamed and exhilarated, I'd left the house in a borrowed blouse and felt like a small, secret thief of the city. That the mirror had become a place where my face softened into questions. Instead, I just let the silence sit between us. A faint sound came from the living room. Mark laughing, the compost of normal life. Lila's hands were steady. She brushed my hair from my face and smiled the kind of smile a sculptor smiles when a piece finally yields. You look like you belong to yourself, she said. That sentence lodged in me. Belong to yourself. When I finally stepped in front of Lila's mirror, the reflection looked like a story I hadn't read yet. My shoulders narrower, the lines of my jaw softened by even the faintest touch of powder, the stockinged legs lending a rhythm to the way I stood. I felt naked in a way that had nothing to do with cloth. Emma's voice in my head quivered, be careful.
Don't get lost.
But Lila's eyes were kind and sharp at the same time, and she reached up and tightened a ribbon on the blouse with a gentle insistence that felt like a command. Promise me one thing, Lila said, leaning in close enough that I could smell the citrus in her perfume. Don't be surprised at what you might like. The proposition wasn't a threat. It was an invitation, and the ambiguity of it made the air between us electric and dangerous. I said yes before I realized I had promised anything at all. When I left Lila's apartment that night, walking home in borrowed shoes, carrying the faint scent of someone else on my skin, I felt like I'd crossed a line I hadn't known existed. Emma kissed me like she always did, oblivious to the skirt folded in the bottom of my backpack. I lied to her when she asked why I smelled different. Her hand settled on my back with trust. I let the lie sit there. The next morning, the skirt in my drawer felt heavier than fabric should. It was a small thing, a memory of lace and fingertips and a sentence. Don't be surprised at what you might like. That kept repeating in my head like a phrase you can't unhear. I was learning that some doors open slowly. I had no idea which one I'd unlocked. The next few days after that night blurred into an uneasy rhythm. I went to work, attended meetings, smiled at Emma across dinner, and pretended everything was ordinary. But it wasn't. Every time I opened my closet, I could almost feel the ghost of that skirt in my drawer, folded neatly, smelling faintly of Lila's perfume. I told myself it was just a one-off, a strange moment that didn't mean anything. But the lie was too thin. By Wednesday, Lila had texted. Lila, you left something behind. Me? What? Lila. Curiosity. I didn't answer. I should have deleted it. But that single word curled around me all morning, even as my coworkers talked about deadlines and prototypes. When I left the office that night, I found myself walking not home, but toward the Markham's apartment. She opened the door in a loose shirt and jeans, hair in a messy bun, barefoot, like she'd been waiting. You came, she said simply. I shouldn't have. You're right, she replied. That's what makes it interesting. There was something disarming about her honesty. She didn't manipulate with false flattery. She said things as though she were conducting an experiment, and I was one of her variables. She gestured to the chair.
Sit.
You tense your shoulders when you lie. I froze, then sat. I'm not lying. You are, she said softly, opening a drawer and pulling out a small velvet box. You're lying to yourself. You wouldn't have come if you didn't want more. Inside the box was a pale pink ribbon. Hold out your wrist, she said. The rational part of me screamed that this was ridiculous. That I was a grown man, that I had a girlfriend, that this entire thing was teetering on the edge of humiliation. But I held it out anyway. She tied it carefully, double-knotted it, the bow facing upward like a strange badge of surrender. There, she murmured. Every doll needs a mark.
The word doll startled me.
I'm not. You're curious, she interrupted. And curiosity is just courage waiting to be named. She guided me to the mirror again. There were new clothes laid out, this time more deliberate, almost ceremonial. A silky camisole, a pleated skirt, a soft cardigan, a short brunette wig. Why are you doing this?
I asked.
Because you let me, she said, her voice calm. And because you need someone to see what you won't admit. The transformation took longer this time. She moved slower, making me participate. Button it yourself, she'd say. Comb your hair until it listens. Every touch of fabric was a negotiation between comfort and exposure. The mirror reflected someone I didn't know but couldn't stop staring at, not a caricature, not a costume. Someone possible. Name her, Lila said when we finished. What? Every doll needs a name. I stared at the reflection. Ally, I said finally. Her smile was approving. Hello, Ally. Something inside me twisted shame, yes, but also an ache that felt like relief. By the weekend, Ally existed in a private space I didn't dare share. I deleted messages from Lila before Emma could see them. We still met, Lila and I, twice, 3 times. Each time, she pushed the boundary a little further. Heels. Makeup. Posture lessons. A whisper that I should practice walking that way even when not dressed. She had a camera she used for her work, portrait photography for modeling agencies. One evening she lifted it, testing the light. You'd photograph beautifully, she said. No, I said instantly. Yes, she countered, circling me. You've got the face of someone trying not to vanish. When the shutter clicked, it startled me, but the sound was intoxicating, the sound of being seen. Later, she sent the photo. It was haunting. The girl in the frame looked alive, shy, almost trembling. The caption read, "Don't worry. She's safe with me." Emma noticed the change. She couldn't name it, but she saw the small absences, the longer showers, the distracted silences, the way I sometimes flinched when she touched the wrist where the pink ribbon still left a faint impression. One night she asked, "Are you okay?" I almost told her, but the image of Lila's eyes, sharp, knowing, flashed through my mind. "I'm fine," I said. Lies come easier when they already fit your shape. Still, guilt began to gnaw. The thrill of transformation was tangled with dread. I'd check my phone constantly, terrified Emma would see a text from Lila. I told myself I'd stop. I didn't. The final push came the night Emma said she wanted to meet Mark's family again for dinner. His sister's back in town, she said cheerfully. We should all hang out. My heart nearly stopped. When we arrived, Lila was composed as always, that serene smirk like a secret code. Emma, oblivious, chatted about work. Lila's eyes flicked to me occasionally, and each time I felt like I was unraveling under her gaze. Halfway through dinner, she said innocently, "Alex, you should show Emma some of your design sketches. He's got a good eye for aesthetics." Emma smiled. "Oh, he's always been artistic. Maybe you two could collaborate someday." The word collaborate landed like a dare. Under the table, Lila's foot brushed mine. Not an accident. A warning or a promise. The next time I went to Lila's apartment, she was waiting with a garment bag. "This is your test," she said. Inside was a soft blue dress, delicate lace trim, a matching pair of heels. "Why are you doing this to me?" I whispered. She tilted her head. "You think I'm doing something to you, but you keep coming back, Alex. You think you're a victim, but you're addicted to being seen." Her words hurt because they were true. That night, she didn't dress me herself. She made me do it, every clasp, every zip, every brushstroke of foundation. She sat across from me, watching, silent. When I finally turned toward her, fully dressed, she smiled softly. "Perfect," she said. "Now, let's see if you can stay perfect under pressure." "What pressure?" Her answer was simple. "Emma's coming here." I froze. "You're kidding." "She's bringing Mark. They'll be here in 15 minutes. The room tilted. "I can't, Lila. I can't do this." She stepped closer, fingers tracing the ribbon on my wrist.
You can.
Because this is who you are when you stop pretending. You don't have to hide from me. But maybe you need to see if you can hide from them. Her calmness terrified me more than any threat. Please, I begged. Let me change. She smiled. Too late. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. The doorbell rang. Lila looked at me with a mixture of cruelty and affection. Answer it, Eli. No. But the bell rang again, louder. Either you answer, she said, or I do. I stood frozen, every nerve screaming. My reflection in the hallway mirror was unrecognizable, the blue dress clinging softly to my frame, my legs bare, lipstick still fresh. I could hear Emma's voice outside, bright, familiar, trusting. Lila? You home? Lila whispered in my ear. If you open that door, everything changes. Forever. I hesitated. And then, without quite knowing why, I reached for the handle. The sound of the latch clicked louder than thunder. My hand trembled as the door creaked open. Hey, Lila. Emma's cheerful greeting cut off mid-word. Her eyes landed on me first. Then down, the blue dress, the soft curls, the heels that made me stand awkwardly between balance and panic. For a long moment, no one breathed. Mark's voice broke the silence. What the hell? Lila stepped forward smoothly, placing a hand on my shoulder. Surprise, she said with a calm that made the room even colder. Lila, Emma said slowly, her face paling. Who is? Lila smiled faintly. You know who this is, Emma. The air was thick, heavy, almost electric. I wanted to speak, to explain, but the words died in my throat. The only sound was the faint hum of the ceiling fan. Emma's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Then her voice, barely a whisper. Alex. I swallowed hard, the name barely recognizable anymore. Emma, I can explain. Explain what? Her voice rose, breaking. What is this? Lila's eyes glittered, feeding on the chaos. It's a game, she said smoothly. He was curious. I helped. Mark looked furious. You used him? Lila laughed softly.
No.
He came to me, again and again. I just gave him permission to see what he already wanted. Her words were knives, not lies, but truths sharpened to wound. Emma stared at me, trembling. Tell me she's lying.
I wanted to. God, I wanted to.
But my reflection in the mirror beside the door told the story for me. Painted lips, careful blush, the faint pink ribbon still tied to my wrist. I didn't mean for this to happen, I whispered. It started as what? She snapped. A joke? A secret? Lila interrupted, voice low, dangerous.
No, Emma.
It started as freedom. You just never noticed how much he was suffocating. Emma turned on Lila. You had no right. I had every right, Lila shot back. He's not your property. He's a person who's been pretending to be what you wanted. I showed him what he could be. Tears stung Emma's eyes. You broke him. Lila smirked.
No.
I fixed him. Mark stepped between them. Enough. This isn't a damn therapy session. But his voice faded into static. My head was spinning. The room, the voices, the colors, everything felt distant, like I was floating just outside my body. I caught sight of myself again in the mirror. Allies stared back, trembling, but real. For the first time, I didn't see disguise. I saw truth, raw and undeniable. Emma's voice cracked. Alex, please, just say something. When I finally spoke, my voice didn't sound like mine. I don't know who I am anymore. That broke her. She backed away as if the words themselves hurt. Lila touched my shoulder gently. Yes, you do. You're her. The room went dead silent. Emma whispered, Her? Lila nodded. The version he buried to keep everyone comfortable. Emma shook her head violently. You're sick. Both of you. She grabbed her purse, tears streaking her cheeks. I can't look at you right now. Emma, please. But she was already gone. The slam of the door left a soundless vacuum behind. Mark muttered something about insanity and followed her out, throwing one last glare at me before disappearing down the hall. Silence. Only Lila and I remained. She exhaled softly, stepping closer, her eyes unreadable. You open the door, ally. You can't close it now. I wanted to hate her, to scream, to take it all back. But all I could do was collapse into the chair, shaking. Why did you do that? I whispered. Why push me like this? Because you are living half a life, she said simply. And half a life isn't living. The next few days were a blur of avoidance and self-doubt. Emma didn't call. Mark stopped replying. Even at work, I caught my reflection in the glass walls and flinched, remembering. But at night, I still went to Lila's. She said she could help me understand what I felt. Each visit blurred the line further. She taught me posture, movement, how to apply lipstick properly, how to walk without thinking about the heels. You're learning control, she'd say, eyes sharp. But it didn't feel like control. It felt like surrender. Still, when I looked in the mirror and saw Ally, I couldn't deny how right it felt. One night, Lila handed me the same pink ribbon. Tie it yourself this time, she whispered. My hands trembled, but I did. Days later, Emma finally texted. Emma, we need to talk. My heart dropped. When we met, she looked exhausted, not angry, not even shocked anymore. Just sad. I loved you, she said quietly. Maybe I still do. But I don't know who you are now. I don't either, I admitted. She nodded slowly. Then maybe you need to find out. She walked away without another word. I stood there, watching her disappear into the rain. That night, I went to Lila's again. She opened the door before I knocked. You look like someone who's finally ready. For what? I asked numbly. To stop pretending you want to stop. She guided me into the room, the same one where it all began. But this time, the lights were dim, the mirror uncovered, the same blue dress waiting neatly on the chair. As I changed, she picked up her camera again. Last time you were afraid, she said. This time, I want to see you. When the shutter clicked, it didn't sound like exposure anymore. It sounded like acceptance. The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing. A message from an unknown number. Beautiful photo. The world deserves to meet Ally. Attached was the picture Lila had taken me, fully transformed, soft smile, unguarded.
And it wasn't just sent to me.
It was posted.
Publicly.
I froze. Notifications began to explode. Messages, comments, disbelief, curiosity. Emma's name flashed on screen. Then Mark's. Then coworkers. My entire double life. Gone in a blink. My reflection on the phone screen looked back at me. Not Alex. Not Ally. Someone new. Someone caught between both. And for the first time, I didn't know if I should feel terror or relief.